to the 80th episode of Everyday Eternal. I had no idea we would actually make it this far, but here we are. And it's not as special as the 100th episode, but for this special episode, Everyday Eternal episode is a special episode. We got my co-host, Callum Whitefacer Smith from the UK.
How's it going, everyone? Well, good to be back again.
And as a special co-host from the US East Coast, the creator of one of the most interesting decks on Magic Online right now, Kyle Moran. Hey, Kyle, how are you doing?
Hey, I'm doing well. How's it going?
Thanks for coming on the cast. I already introduced you as the creator of one of the most interesting decks, and we'll touch on that a little bit later on. But first of all, tell us something about yourself. How are you doing? How did you get into Magic?
Yeah. So, yeah, for sure. I got you. So, I started Magic. I've been playing Magic. Honestly, it's nice because I don't ever remember the amount of time, but I know I exactly started right around Return to Ravnica came out. So it was like 8 years, something like that. So I've been, compared to a lot of these legacy folks, actually not that long, but still a pretty long time. So I started playing at my local game store around that time, played, did the whole local game store thing. And then eventually I started getting good enough that I top 8 at GP New Jersey. It was in 2017, I believe. And that kind of started, kind of lit the fuel under my fire to start playing Magic way more competitively and kind of trying to win tournaments and all that stuff. I got crushed in the Pro Tour, but it was still a lot of fun. And then, and then from there, I've been a Boston. So I go to college at Tufts, so I'm a local Boston grinder. I'm sure many people in that area know me either by my name or my face. And then I kind of got back in the Pro Tour around Pro Tour Eldraine, where I came in 36th. And then after that, everything kind of hit, and no more pro Magic. So we're playing online now, and thought I'd take up streaming. So my friend did it. My friend started. There's a whole story of how my friend started World Gorger, the whole World Gorger thing. But I started doing it a couple months ago, and it's been a lot of fun. We've gotten a lot of press. So I'm happy to be here.
Okay, there must have been some kind of misunderstanding. I was told that we would have the most resident World Gotcha Dragon Master on this cast, but Now that I hear about you've actually been really successful. You're much more than the meme.
Yeah, no, exactly. No, I've been playing competitive Magic for a long time. Just when you're just around people like that, you kind of get more and more success, and that's what I've been able to do once I got into college. So, yeah.
What was the GP you top 8'd? What format was that?
It was standard. Insane story behind it. So my friend on Thursday, before the GP, it was back when Saheeli Copycat was legal for some reason.
Right, I remember that one.
Yeah, and it was Thursday, and my friend's like, "Yo, Kyle, want to go to a GP?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I don't even have a deck, so I don't think I'm gonna go." And he's like, "Well, you can borrow my Copycat deck." And I'm like, "All right, word, let's do it." So we show up at Friday at 6:00. 5 minutes before the last chance trial happens. I play in it, I win it, get my 2 buys. I didn't have 2 buys back then. Or I guess buys aren't a thing anymore, but back when they were. Then I went in and just went 13-2 and beat Oliver to you in the last round. He flamed me on Twitter for having a game day champion playmat. So
I think I actually remember that being a thing.
Yeah, that awesome. Was me.
Nice. That's something to be proud of.
Still the playmat.
Yeah, I'm a games day champion. Mm-hmm. Own it. Cool. I didn't know that about you. That's really cool. So you're just transferring your insane skills to a deck in Legacy of equal power level, right?
Yeah, no, I remember what my friend first told me about it. He's like, yeah, Kyle, so there's this combo deck in Legacy where you get to cast Entomb, and you put this 6-drop dragon in your graveyard, then you cast Animate Dead on it, and it flickers everything that you have. And I'm like, that sounds kind of cool. And he's like, yeah, but it's kind of bad because you have to use it with Baleful Strix and stuff. And I'm like, well, wait a minute. Isn't there this card called Arkham's Astrolabe that's legal? It's pretty good. We should try that one.
I find it hilarious that your friend would introduce you to Legacy by bringing up Dragon of all the possible decks. If you ask me, I came into Legacy as an active player in 2006-07. I was looking into it in 2005. And ever since, I've known Dragon to basically be a meme deck, right? For the potential to draw the game and sometimes cause these really weird results 105 or something. And now your friend comes there and he's like, you know what you should be doing, Kyle? You should be casting World Gotcha Dragon, or rather, Animate Deading it.
Yeah.
Was that your actual first exposure to Legacy?
It was not my first. I had like dipped my toe in, so I was like a Miracles and Snowco player before Uro came out before that, and I didn't really like the decks. They were fun. They were definitely fun, but I'm like, I kept losing to these unfair strategies because like, how am I supposed to, like, even if I like can stop their initial onslaught, they could usually like cobble together a combo, and I'm just like, I can't. It's so hard to win. But what I love about World Gorge Dragon is you can just slam the door shut on people. It's like, okay, we're done playing here. It's over. Like the Storm players trying to like sculpt this perfect grip with Ponders and Brainstorms. I'm just like, all right, you're dead. Like, no more. We're done here.
Really appreciate that approach. Like, I know exactly what you mean, right? We talked about this in the cast before, that especially, for example, blue-green combo decks like Omnichile or something, they got a really good matchup against all these mid-range, control-ish Snowco decks just because they have an issue closing the game. After all, Uro isn't that fast, especially in the first game when you have a ton of useless cards in your hand. So I totally see where you're coming from. This is exactly what I want to have in a deck as well, right? I want to have play like actual Magic, but I also want to always have the option to do something unfair. And at least for me, that reflects in almost all the decks I ever played in Legacy. So you're catching my interest with this World Gotcha Dragon deck.
Yeah.
Callum, have you played World Gotcha Dragon before?
Me, I played the old versions, which were really bad. So that's as far as my exposure goes. This is like before Astrolabe, of course, and before you could really build it into a mid-range thing. So it was like, but I didn't play it before Grizzlebrand came out. So it was always just like, well, this is after it was unbanned, of course, as well. So I kind of built it a few times for the local game store, and I was putting it together. I was like, this is so sad to say, but why don't you just have Grizzlebrand? Like, it's just better when you're trying to do that kind of thing. But your approach actually makes it way more legit, because you are a snow deck almost first and foremost, but you just have this Splinter Twin. I hate to use that term, but people understand it. Like, just, you can just end the game, as you're saying, really fast. Like, you do combo kill on turn 2 fairly often. It was turn 3 your average.
It's not very hard. It's more often turn 3, because turn 3 you can put some interaction in there, but turn 2 is very easy to do as well.
Yeah, I guess all you need is the Entomb and then the Animate Dead, and then you can flash in Strix, I guess.
Yep.
For anyone that doesn't know, why don't you explain the combo?
Yeah, of course. So it's a little like, once you get it, it's pretty easy. But like, when you're first seeing it in action, you're just like, what in the world is going on?
It is pretty crazy, especially on Magic Online. You have these things going everywhere.
Literally in my top 8 match, the guy I played against, he messaged me later and he was like, yeah, I had no idea what was going on until you killed me with this combo. So people still don't know what's going on. So essentially, the way the combo works is, you first start by casting Entomb, which searches your library for a card and you get to put it into your graveyard for 1 mana. So the card you get is World Gorger Dragon. And then you cast Animate Dead on your World Gorger Dragon, which then triggers a chain of events where the dragon will enter the battlefield with Animate Dead enchanted on it, which triggers the ETB of World Gorger Dragon to exile all of your permanents. And then once this happens, with the Animate Dead being exiled under the World Gorger Dragon, it causes the dragon to be sacrificed due to Animate Dead's triggered ability, which then in turn, once the dragon dies, triggers the dragon's I don't even know if I think it's a leaves the battlefield ability. I don't even know if it's leaves the battlefield or dies. I'm pretty sure it's leaves the battlefield though.
Yeah.
And so when the dragon leaves the battlefield, all your permanents come back. So all your stuff comes back, including the Animate Dead, which you can then reattach to World Gorge Dragon to rinse and repeat. And the net result of this loop is it makes all your lands come back into play untapped, essentially generating infinite mana. But it also, if you have a permanent such as an Arkham's Astrolabe or an Ice Fang Codal or a Teferi Master of Time in play, you get to draw through your entire deck and then win in one of the many assorted ways that I have won with over the months I've been playing this deck.
Yeah, I think I've seen you play a lot of different win conditions, and I guess there's a reason for each one to be better or worse than each other.
Yeah.
But
just to give an idea how far the deck has actually come, from when I remember the deck was played in Vintage and in a Bazaar of Baghdad deck, where you discard the dragon, then Animate Dead it, and the payoff card here was, like, I don't even know how people arrived at that, but it was Ambassador Lakutis, which is 3 mana, 1/3, and for 3 colorless mana, it mills any player for, I don't even know, 3 cards, I guess.
I guess so, the payoff being a creature is pretty important, because you'll, especially with that one, it makes sense, because with Bazaar flickering in and out, you'll mill your whole library. And then you can Animate Dead on the last one with infinite mana, and Ambassador Lakutis, the Animate Dead.
Oh, yeah. Otherwise, you would draw the game, right? So you would need some other target. Yeah, and like from there, what I wanted to showcase is like the big improvement that people had, where like, oh my god, now the deck maybe it's gonna be better, was Una, Queen of the Fae, which I don't even know, it's basically the same card, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the dragon I knew for over a decade. And can you also like quickly touch on how you actually draw the game? Because that's also something you can do with the deck. Like if you're in a really bad spot and you don't have means to actually like draw your entire deck or kill the opponent, there's a way to do that.
To be clear, this is only a thing you can do in real life. For Magic Online, you're just going to time out.
Yep. That's. I was actually going to start with that point. That's a very important point to make. Yeah, you cannot draw in Magic Online. Your chess clock will burn you out, even in scenarios where you should be able to draw. Because Moto does have a limited draw function. The fact that you have to target World Gorger each time with Animate Dead burns your chess clock, so it doesn't work. But
I've had a friend send me a screenshot of someone trying to draw the game and messaging in chat saying, "Hey, why is it not working? Why are we not drawing?" But yeah, go ahead.
Yes, but when you're in paper, in like, the real world, whenever that happens again, it's the way you draw with the World Gorge Dragon. So the way the cards are worded is if there is no other target besides World Gorge Dragon, either graveyard for Animate Dead, none of the triggers are optional. So all you have to do in order to draw the game is Animate Dead, World Gorge Dragon with no other creatures in the graveyard. You are complete, even though it's a little bit like, I don't know if moral gray area is the right way to say it, but even though it's a little sus, you can do whatever you want to facilitate this. Like, let's say there's a creature in your opponent's graveyard and you exile it with like a Cling to Dust, which is a card we play, and then you cast World Gorger to draw. That's completely fine. Because the reason it leads to a draw is because none of the triggers are optional, so you have no way of actually stopping yourself once you've started, if that makes sense. And then you just kind of blink forever and no one can do anything, and that's a draw.
Yeah, there's just nothing you can do. Like, sorry, opponent, I didn't know this would happen.
Also important to note, if cards are in your hand that could stop it, you are not required to play them. So
I didn't know that. Yeah. So if you do that and you have an Entomb in your hand, you're not required to play it.
Yep, you are not. Okay.
The only thing you're required to do is like to make a decision for the card that actually matters, which would be like Animate That. Like the game would ask you to eventually, like if whenever there's an infinite cycle, right? The player who controls any part of that cycle is asked to make the decision that progresses the game eventually. So if there's another creature, you will eventually be asked to target that. But it's not like it's going to make you cast something from your hand, especially not like something that is hidden information or go beyond that. It's really only the single decision that you can influence, which is the target of the Animate Dead. So yeah, it's a weird thing. The deck, I can't even say has gotten a bad reputation because of that over the years. It's more like a meme reputation, and I really like how you've been cultivating that meme. Are you actually the guy who's behind all those memes? Because over the last 2 or 3 weeks, all over social media, I've seen so many dragon memes.
Yeah, no, I have made most of those memes. A few of them have been generated by our Grayer Discord community, which they're all great.
Wait, you have a dragon Discord? Sorry to interrupt you.
Oh, we have a large dragon Discord. It's over 200. We're reaching 250 members now, so it is pretty big.
Oh yeah, I'm in there, and there is a dedicated meme channel.
Yep, but a lot of them are made by me. I like to say I have the best memes, but obviously that's subjective. So
everyone says that, but yeah.
Of course. Yeah.
Yeah, Julian, we can link the Discord in the show notes.
Oh, we'll definitely. So it's open to anyone? I guess if you got Caleb in there, you got pretty low standards anyway.
Yeah. I'm the moderator there, so don't cross me or I'll ban you. But, anyone's allowed to come.
Great. So to go a little bit deeper into the deck, if I look at the deck, it's almost like it's more like a snow shell almost. So we for people listening right now, the core of the deck is you got your blue cantrips, you got Ponder, you got you don't have Ponder, you got Ponder, you got Brainstorm, you got Forces, Astrolabe, Ice-Fang Codal, 2 Uros. And beyond that, you got 3 Thoughtseize for protection, 2 Abrupt Decay, 2 Drown in the Lock, and then the combo of 4 Animate That, 4 Entomb, 1 Dragon, I would think, and 1 Duskmantle Guildmage, and 2 Teferi Master of Time. So let's talk about Duskmantle Guildmage first of all. It's the one that, from the top of my head, it basically also mills the opponent for a certain number of mana, right?
Sort of, yes. Well, the actual way you use the kill with it is you activate the first ability 5 times, which means whenever a card would enter your opponent's graveyard from anywhere, they lose 5 life since you activate it 5 times. And then you mill them for 4, so they take 20. So that's the way...
Oh, okay.
That is the kill.
So
sorry, yeah.
No, go ahead.
Yeah. So I was just saying the reason we play Dustmantle Guildmage right now is one of the fastest ways to kill on Moto, which is really important because this deck takes a lot of time to play. So we want to minimize the amount of time we actually spend comboing, because you not only can you get it with Entomb because it's a creature, but it also takes the least amount of mana to kill out of most other win conditions. So you can find it quickly, you can use it quickly, and it's not. Also, it pitches the Force of Will, which is really big because you don't need the combo to win the game. If you just draw your deck and put Uro in the play, that's probably good enough most of the time.
That's actually sad.
That is a really strong point to the deck, though. Like these combo decks that have, if some little thing of your combo is disrupted, you can still, like, what's another example of like drawing your whole deck? I'm just blanking on a combo deck I'm thinking of where it draws the deck and like, okay, so I think Veil of Summer stops Dustmantle Guildmage as well.
It
right?
does.
Yeah, but as you say, you can just draw into 4 forces and 3 blue cards or something and make an Uro, and yeah, I can totally see like you can just combo and not have to kill them that immediate turn.
Yeah, in paper, we've been the win condition of choice has been a hot debate for I think about as long as this version of the deck's been around. And Dustmantle Guildmage is kind of the next iteration in this. The old win condition, or actually the last win condition, I should say, that we used was Fae of Wishes, because Fae of Wishes was able to go grab Torment of Hailfire in our sideboard, which actually got around Veil of Summer, and also Fae of Wishes was a very good card. But the reason I swapped out Fae of Wishes for Dustmantle Guildmage was because I really wanted that 15 sideboard spot back. So our sideboard is so important to what we're trying to do here. You need, at least I feel, you need all 15 slots, or you really want them. It's really tough to go down.
I love when someone's so deeply entrenched in a deck that they really understand every single sideboard slot to the extent of where they're like, I can't afford this one. So that's really cool to hear.
Yeah.
If you had no restrictions on time for Magic Online, what would be the absolute best win condition?
We've talked about that so much. There's so many options. I couldn't tell you, but there's like Thassa's Oracle is one that we've considered because it's actually pretty good and it's like definitely better than Dustmantle Guildmage, but that one requires card draw. Then there's also some of them like Stroke of Genius was one that was we played for the longest time, but that one took basically a year to use, and it was also kind of awkward with the fact that it wasn't a creature. But I guess it doesn't really matter. Mm-hmm. I wished I could tell you. I really do.
No,
but
fair enough. They all seem to have this little tiny problem, like Stroke gets veiled as well. It isn't a creature. Yeah. Oracle I could see being a slightly worse card than Dustmantle. Yeah.
So here's something I'm wondering right now. You say Dustmantle Guildmage gets stopped by Veil, right? Isn't there like a scenario where you get Dustmantle Guildmage and you use the first ability, I don't know, 20 times, and then you animate dead one of their creatures, and then you abrupt decay your own animate dead, and then a card goes to their graveyard? Isn't that how it works?
Yeah, that's how it works. Cool. That's actually pretty cool. I actually didn't think of that, but that's absolutely how it works.
Damn, the plays. The
big brain.
Cool. I've got a pea brain here. Thinking just one-dimensional. Cool. So Dustmantle Guildmage is completely broken. What about Teferi, Master of Time?
Also completely broken, better than anything you could possibly play ever. But I'll in more serious notes. So Teferi, Master of Time, that's the card that has definitely gotten the most, I'm not going to say flack because people love it, but they're like, why are you playing this card? I get it almost like all the time. It's like, why are you playing Teferi, Master of Time? Like, why don't you just play Jace the Mind Sculptor? And I'm like, so what Teferi does a little bit differently than any other top end, because those 2 slots that Teferi, Master of Time occupied have always been our 2 top end spots. We've either had we had Jace the Mind Sculptor, we've had Narset, we've had Oko, but just having something a little bit more on the top end has always been there. But the reason that I've really liked Teferi, Master of Time in this spot is it kind of gets to play the middle ground where it doesn't do any one job incredibly well, but it's able to do all the jobs I want for all my top end. So what I mean by that is Narset might be really good at digging through your deck and maybe locking your opponent out. But when you're really behind on board, it's like really embarrassing. And then Noko's really good at generating threats, but the problem is sometimes that's just completely irrelevant when you're actually trying to combo. But Teferi not only can it dig you through your deck to find you what you need, like discard useless Uros or dragons or Thought Seizes that have gone kind of bad because the game's at turn 10 at this point, or Force of Will so you don't have an extra blue card. But it also can be used to protect you with the Phase Out ability, which is a lot more relevant than I think people kind of think when they first see it. Because like not only because like there's like obviously great point where you can get something like Merit Lage, but even against Delver, just being able to take out a Hooting Mandrills at one point. It's really good. And it also, obviously, like any other Planeswalker, will run away with the game if left uncontested for 1 to 2 turns. So that's nice too. And it goes off with Dragon, which is a good meme, but less so that and more so the other stuff I said.
Oh, because you can activate it at instant speed, right? Oh, that's actually so cute.
That was my first realization was, okay, wow, it's a top end that goes off with Dragon, but yeah, I can quickly see that it's just actually a pretty decent card, and then the combo with Dragon is not super relevant, but yeah.
Yeah, it comes up very rarely, but not never.
Awesome.
So is it something you're happy about, or are you also currently exploring other options for the 4-mana slot?
It's actually funny, because I think I can say both those things, where I've been very happy. Like, in the games I've been playing with it, it's been very good, but at the same time, you always want to, like, as the meta shifts and as things change, you definitely always want to keep exploring stuff. Like, nothing's set in stone. That's one of, like, the biggest deck building philosophies that I have, where you don't want to ever get kind of too stuck in your own ways. If something's not working, you got to swap it out. So it's been good for now, but, you know, if Jace comes back and Jace is better, we can put Jace in.
Okay, man, you get me exciting for this. Like every time we have guests, I mention how the guests get me to want to explore a deck. I was actually almost putting this together for a stream tonight to try it out before we get to the podcast. I didn't have enough time then, but this is something that's already loaded into my Magic Online. How often do you get to take the 2 extra turns?
The 2 extra. Usually, almost always, my opponent is conceded before that's about to happen. Like, if the fairies hit 7 loyalty, I've almost certainly won that game.
That's so mean of them.
Yeah, I know, right?
I want you to be able to, like, one day hardcast Dragon with Astrolabes and then Teferi take 2 extra turns and smack them with it.
Sadly, you can't take extra turns with Dragon Loose because it always comes back with 3 loyalty, so it never gains loyalty. You just get to keep looting with it, so essentially it'll win you the game.
I mean, like, if you have Teferi in play, you ultimate it, and then you cast Dragon.
Oh, then I cast Blue. That is spicy.
Cool. I mean, this seems great to me. Like, the real power of the deck is just that you can play this ultra fair game and you can grind so well. Like, again, to reiterate, we have Arcum's Astrolabe to fix your mana. You have 4 Ice Fang Coatls. Then you have the cantrips, the Thought Seizers. You have removal for Delver and stuff. Like, this is just a snow deck against Delver. So, I mean, it's very rare for a combo deck to have this good of a Delver matchup. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but do you think the matchup was pretty good?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Actually, I would love to go more into the sideboarding that I do here, because it's the sideboard. I think is one of the biggest strengths of the deck. Just the way the deck is constructed. It's just it just lets you get so many people. So, like, yeah, as you're saying, game 1, you can play this fair game plan and then also just kind of randomly win, which is totally true. And it also plays very well to my strengths, because I love playing decks where you're just like doing stuff. Oh, you put your shields down for a turn. Sorry. All right, I guess we're done here. So. Yeah,
that's like, what your opponent did in the final game of the finals, right? When they tapped out, even though
they punted that so hard. Oh my god, they punted so hard. I don't know. I looked at their hand, saw a double Abrupt Decay. I'm like, there's no way we're gonna win. Then they tap out for Uro one turn. I'm like, okay. And then I don't draw the Black Source because he wasteland my Black Source. So I'm like, okay, I guess we lose. Then he taps out for Oko, and I'm like, are you giving me another chance here?
I was watching the stream while you were playing that final, and I chatted to him afterwards, and he said he had an appointment to get to, so he was trying to play fast. But I think although you saw his hand, it's not clear that, like, you can't beat 2 decays. You could have, like, played a much longer game very easily. So.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But he had Sylvan Library going at that point, so I think he could have just kept drawing cards and probably just ended me. But we'll take it. We take those. But to my point with the deck building, so you get to play this fair game. But in the sideboard, we've actually constructed the sideboard in a way that you can literally side out the entire combo in certain matchups, like Delver, as you said. So our plan against Delver is side out every single World Gorger Dragon piece, bring in the 3 Veil Summers, bring in the 3 Assassin's Trophy, bring in the Carpet of Flowers, bring in the 3 Okos. I believe that's everything. Yeah, and the Fatal Push. So we bring in all those cards. So they have... I cannot tell you the amount of times that I will just bring in all my fair cards and then I thought seize my opponent and see their hand as like double Surgical Extraction or something. I'm just looking at my hand with Oko Thief of Crowns and I'm just like, sorry, bud.
This is such a powerful angle for a deck to have as well, because they do need to respect the combo. Like, I guess now you're giving away your secrets, and then you know to like never bring in graveyard hit against you. You can switch that up. Leave this damn stuff in. Like if you see them like not respect the combo game 2, I guess you could like leave some in game 3. Just having this flexibility to make them respect something.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those like push pulls where if they know I'm not doing it, then I can just start doing it again. So
yeah,
you know.
Are there any other matchups where you side out the full combo? Is this like a just Delver thing, or is it?
No, it's definitely not a just Delver thing. Any against mono white, like those or maybe it's sometimes like a little color, like those white based prisony taxi decks with that. If the deck's running Thalia Guardian of Threebren, you almost certainly want to side out the entire combo, because not only is it really, it's not like, it's actually kind of feasible to force through the combo game 1, but the amount of like super situational graveyard hate that they bring in against you is just not even worth it anymore. Like I've had them bring in like Rest in Peace, and I'm just like, if I have combo in my deck, this card's really hard to beat. But if I don't have combo in my deck, this card is literally a blank piece of cardboard. So let's make it a blank piece of cardboard and win more often.
Oko is your combo card after sideboard.
Yeah, no, Oko. I don't know how that card made it past testing. It was really good. It's really good in Pro Tour Eldraine. It's really good now. So
allegedly, according to Wizards, they never considered that they could alch the opponent's creatures as well. But that's the word on the street. I think they actually mentioned that in an article where they explained how Oko slipped through.
Yeah, I'll believe it.
What about the snow matchup? Is that another place you take out all the dragon pieces or some? I can imagine this is a matchup where you want the combo actually.
So it's very interesting that regular snow control decks have changed so much kind of over even these last few weeks I've been playing. So I think when we started first getting successes with Dragon, it was actually because I built Dragon in a way to metagame against the back when Urion was legal in like its full power. I think right after Lurrus was banned. Companions were still their normal, like you could just cast them from the companion zone or whatever. And I built the deck in a way that it would hate on the fact that Urion was playing an 80 card value pile, and here's a combo, you're not going to be able to beat this because you're playing an 80 card value pile. So against those kinds of decks, you would never cut combo because their deck was far too inconsistent. But Snowco decks, especially after the Companion nerf, have been kind of adapting, where if you look at some of the most recent Snowco lists, you'll see that they're on like 7 different 0 mana pitch counters, 4 copies of Abrupt Decay, and 4 copies of Swords to Plowshares. So it kind of depends on how they build their snow deck, is whether or not you side out the combo. You gotta be be on top. You gotta be on top of that. Make sure you're paying good attention with your thought seizes. Make sure you take note of what cards you're seeing. But you also have to be very careful, because if they're too grindy and you go into your grind package, you can get kind of the rug pulled out from under you. So you just kind of have to keep your wits about you when you're sideboarding against Snowco.
That makes sense a lot. I guess one important point to make is, as great as the combo is, it's like not very resource intensive, and you can kind of end a turn the Entomb, and then you do have a lot of flexibility with it. It does get stopped by a Source of Plowshares on the World Gorger Dragon, or an Abrupt Decay on the Animate Dead. And if they time it right, you lose all your permanents, so it's pretty risky. So it is a combo that... Yeah.
It's a ride or die kind of combo.
Yeah.
So you gotta be ready sometimes.
I guess it's a combo that does get disrupted by a lot of things, but you are a deck that plays a lot of disruption, because I'm trying to go through my head of what kind of matchups you're weak to, because you're saying you're good against Delver, which I can totally see. You're a Snowco deck. You beat the slower fair decks generally because you just have a combo when you need it, or you can adapt to it. And then against combo, you yourself have a pretty fast combo, and you have Thought Seizes and Force of Wills and Drown on the Locks and stuff. I can see this having just really good matchups across the board, but you just do have this small weakness of, the combo can be stopped by a lot of different things.
Yeah, there are a few kind of weird niched matchups that aren't that good. You can have a hard time against, it's not Sneak and Show. Sneak and Show is actually good, but Show and Tell, because Veil of Summer is absurdly effective at stopping every single piece of disruption that you run. And I've tried to make it different, but it's just really hard to do so. So I'm it's not worth my time. But
so that's the straight blue-green Omnitel deck. I guess because they didn't pass the turn to you really. So yeah.
Mm-hmm, exactly. Also, Chalice of the Void decks can be very difficult, because Chalice of the Void, if they resolve Chalice of the Void, you have answers. It's not that you don't, but it shuts down a big portion of your deck, and you also can't go off with combo anymore if you hadn't entombed already. So Chalice of the Void decks, I've actually metagamed, or not metagamed, but I've actually tuned the deck to make sure we have enough answers to Chalice of the Void, because there was one league where I was trying out a 4-color dragon version, because red elemental or like red blasts are very good at also protecting your combo, but also being great and stuff. But the problem I found with that was that you just get destroyed against Chalice if you try doing that, because not only are you bringing in these red blasts, which do just nothing against them, but the cards you're taking out to make room for more red blasts are the cards that are traditionally good against Chalice. So yeah, you got to be very careful in those kinds of matchups.
Yeah, that makes sense. Your sideboard looks fantastic against Chalice with the Okos, the trophies. But main deck, you have these 2 decays, and then you have the Force of Wills or Drown in the Lock if you're lucky to catch it. But
I've actually found a lot of the time we lose because people will try to choke us out my mana. Like, I'll have the full combo assembled. My opponent just has a bunch of Wastelands and Rishit imports, and I just can't cast it.
Yeah, I can see that. Totally.
So according to a secret document that was put into our hands, it's called Hooked on a Feeding, Life, Living, and the Pursuit of Dragon. I can't go into detail how we actually got that, but according to that, Maverick, for example, is your most unfavored matchup right now. Is that true?
Yeah, so that's honest. It's true, but it's honestly kind of a meme too, because what makes Maverick so good against us is they have a pretty fast, like a relatively speaking fast clock. They have a lot of very efficient graveyard hate. Neither the Reliquary is absurdly hard to beat if they untap with it. And they also can have access to Veil of Summer in order to just like undo all of your interaction. So they can, and also, or they run Chalice of the Void, one or the other. So yeah, either way, those are both really bad. So it's, my Maverick can be very, very bad for us. Also, they even have Caracas too. So our alternative plan of Uro just doesn't get there like most of the time. So yeah, no, Maverick can be tough.
Okay. So, but overall, you looking at this, as we just talked about, the most played decks in the format right now, especially the non-combo variants, they look pretty good. And you mentioned Reanimator, I guess Black Red Reanimator, as your most favored matchup right now. How often do you get to like steal a Grizzlebrand or lock them out with, I don't know, anything?
Oh, it's so much fun to play the Reanimator matchup, because that is our main plan. Our main plan is not going off with World Gorge Dragon. Our main plan is taking their Grizzlebrand.
I love it so
that's
much.
How often it happens.
This is so great.
Because you can easily, not easily, but fairly easily, like, you let the Entomb or the Faithless Looting resolve or something, and then you can all pretty easily stop them from reanimating it for one turn, and then you just cast Animate down on their Grizzlebrand, and the game is just over. Like, it is just done.
I want to see the look on their faces when you did all this, like, Snowco stuff, and then all of a sudden, okay, their reanimation spell fails. They think like, okay, I got like 2 more in hand, no problem. And then you untap and you like literally animate that Grizzlebrand. That must be one of the most unexpected things ever.
Yeah, no, it's classic. I remember one game where I'm just like, I was on the play, and I just go like, turn 1, Snow-Covered Island, Arkham's Ashblade, go. And they're like, turn 1, looting, discard a Grizzlebrand. I'm just like, turn 2, animate at it. And it's like,
I want to see the Thoughtseize, and then like the person's like, okay, fine, I'm going to discard my Reanimate or whatever. Like, no, I'm taking that Grizzlebrand.
Oh, I've done that too. I've definitely done that too. They have like 3 reanimation spells. I'm like, take the Grizzlebrand.
At that point, they should already know what's coming.
Oh yeah, no, they know. I'm sure they know nothing good is afoot when their Grizzlebrand gets taken when they have 3 reanimation spells.
Awesome. And speaking of the Dragon Bible, I just stopped it. Is that something that is available publicly? So can we link that in the show notes for everyone?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So that write-up you're talking about is our official World Gorge Dragon write-up. So it's supposed to be kind of the public resource for people if they want to learn more about Dragon, because it's such a weird deck that kind of just came up sort of recently. It has all the most updated stuff on the card choices we have, what we're not playing, the certain play lines you can make, sideboarding decisions, matchup analysis. Yeah, I'd say it's got it all if you want to pick up Dragon. So definitely recommend checking it out. If even if you don't care about like the stream or the Discord or anything like that, if you just want to try Dragon, check out that write-up first.
Yeah, it's a 16-page document and even has like sweet pictures of. Is it? Let me check. Let me guess.
That's what I'm there for. The sweet pictures.
Yeah, it's got some sweet pictures.
That's definitely not Korean. So is it Japanese?
I'm pretty sure it's Japanese. That's my good friend Alex's collection of World Gorger, but yeah.
Or maybe it actually is. No, it doesn't look Korean. Anyway.
Now that you mention Alex, when I asked you to join the cast, because you've been streaming, I thought you were the face of it. But I realized it's not just you that's been working on the deck, so we should give a shout out to the people that have been working on the deck as well? Is it Alex and any others?
Yeah, so it's been mainly me and Alex have so I guess I should give a little bit of history behind the whole dragon thing. Yeah. So when the Discord server was kind of born, it was like Alex was like the main guy who started it all. Like I wasn't even around for like the birth or the inception of it all. Because like apparently there are a lot of people in like his magic groups that were like, oh, this World War Dragon thing's pretty cool. So he made a Discord server. It's like, okay, you can put all your conversation about Dragon in this place. So he did that, and then people were talking about it for a bunch, and people were like, hey, we kind of want someone to stream this to see, like, so we could all kind of watch it, especially with everything started kind of the whole pandemic and everything. So he did that for a little bit. And then he reached out to me. He's like, hey, Kyle, you should come on the stream and like we can do it together, because he knows all about, we're best friends, and he also knows all about my Magic history. So he's like, oh, I'm sure you'd be great. And so I came on, and then slowly kind of like I used to just kind of like we cast together, but then he decided he didn't really want to stream anymore. So he's like, yeah, Kyle, you should take over the stream. So I'm like, okay, I can do that. And then from there, the kind of rest is history. And then we kind of got to the point where, modern the Dragon as you know it, if you will.
Yeah, that's great. So shout out to Alex as well.
Definitely.
Getting the Dragon gang together.
On the Discord. Yeah.
Awesome. I'm really excited to play this as well. I'll say I'm going to build it in paper, but I have 4 dragons, but they're not real ones. They're the reprints, so I need to get some nice Judgment Dragon.
Oh, you gotta get the Judgment ones.
Yeah,
like old friend for the win, dude.
I'm pretty sure I saw the foil went up to like $114.
Holy shit.
Like that.
Okay, I take that back. I don't actually own any World War Dragons.
Luckily, you only need one.
One. True. So, lastly, where do you see this deck going? Like, it's proved itself now. It's more than a meme. Like, people are going to say that for a while, I think, still. But the deck, you've won the last challenge. You've top-8'd one before, top-4'd one before.
Top-4'd, yeah. But it was actually even funnier because I didn't lose that top-4 match because I lost
out, right?
it. Yep.
Yeah. So, I mean, this deck is real, and people are 5-0ing with it a lot. So, do you think this is a thing that's easy to attack, or is it a thing that's here to stay?
I think it's here to stay. It's just like it's hard to attack decks that attack you on 2 different angles. I was talking about earlier, where I top-8'd the GP with Core Color Copycat, and this deck feels like very similar to that, where you just have like this really awesome, fair mid-range game plan, and then you also have this way to say, oops, I win the game. There's just not really a clear way to. Like, you can attack it, but it's like Snoko, right? Where it's like, there's no real clear way to say, okay, Snoko doesn't work anymore. It's not like Reanimator, where it's like, oh, just bring in your graveyard hate. Like, that doesn't really fly.
Yeah,
people do it, and it doesn't work.
I can totally see this.
There's definitely cards that people can start playing that are much better against Dragon, though. Like, I would say the best assets, if you want to, like, beat Dragon, which, man, I'm giving away my trade secrets here. People are probably going to beat me.
Just give 1 or 2 as a treat.
Yeah. So a couple. So Nile Spellbomb, permanent-based graveyard hate that isn't terrible, like, situationally. Like, Relic of Progenitus and Nile Spellbomb are kind of the 2 that kind of fall into that. These kinds of, like, good, like, graveyard hatey cards that can also be sacked away for value. Because those are really good, because they're not like cards like Tormod's Crypt, which are relegated to just graveyard hate, but they're things that if I want a combo, I have to answer, but if I do answer them, I do so at a large disadvantage to myself. And they also don't get Thoughtseize, so it's much better, in my opinion, things like Surgical Extraction, or Fairy Macabre is like another, I guess that's similar, where you can Thoughtseize that one, but that's also in our cards very effective at stopping combo. But yeah, those fair kind of small ball graveyard hate cards are very good. And then also cards like Seals of, I think it's Seal of Cleansing is what it's called, but like the 2-mana enchantment you can sack to destroy an artifact or enchantment. Those kinds of cards very effective as well, and like just stopping the combo and also being decent. So
this sounds very similar to the Buried Life Phoenix deck. When people were saying like, how do you beat that? And I was saying Surgical and Fairy Macabre, like, they don't work. You can bide your time, play a fair plan, and you can discard it when you want to. It's the things that sit on board, and you do have answers for them, as you said, but like, you're losing mana usually, you lose a card, maybe 2 cards. Yeah, I can see that. Totally. Mm-hmm. Anything that says draw a card and disrupts, essentially.
Yeah, exactly.
Or like Dragons Reliquary, as you said as well. Because that's going to get you a Caracas or a Paducah Bog or
Crop Rot's always been good, but luckily we can play around those, because any card that goes on the stack, we play. John the Lock was a really big innovation in the deck that is kind of old at this point, but people don't play it in Legacy, so I still consider it an innovation.
No, this card is great. It's just to hype it up. I think it's one of the most greatly designed cards in a while because it's so good against blue decks, but then it's like very dead against the D&T or Eldrazi or whatever. Yeah, it's super.
Yeah, it's not horrible though against them because like the fact that it's a counter spell that also serves as a removal spell, and getting 2 cards in the opponent's graveyard with fetch lands and all this stuff entering, or even your own thought seizes, or your own removal spells like a Replicate, it's not hard to do. It's actually insanely easy to do.
True. Yeah, not too bad. Not too bad at all.
Yeah, no.
Cool. I'm excited to try this deck as well.
Yeah, we're definitely gonna link your Bible, the Dragon Bible, the link to your Dragon. No, you have your own Twitter, right? You mentioned you might make a dedicated.
Yeah, I don't have a Twitter yet, but we'll see if we get it. It's been kind of like Alex and I have been talking on and off about it. It's like maybe we should start making our own Twitter for this thing because honestly, this stream has grown so fast in such a small amount of time. It's kind of been hard to keep up with a little bit. Like I remember it was like not even a couple months ago. Our Discord server was half of the size it is now, and the stream had like 10 followers. So
that's great. I love to hear this.
Yeah, no, it's come so far. So we're thinking of making it a Twitter. I'll let you guys know if we can put that. But it doesn't exist as of this recording right now. So.
Or maybe it's the secret. Who knows?
Secret World Gorger Twitter. Yeah.
No, but seriously, you sound so excited and passionate about this, and I think that's something that people really look for in a stream. That people pick up on and want to go back to, even if they don't play Dragon. Like I haven't played it yet, but just listening to you makes me want to play it and check out your stream. So when do you usually stream? Like, do you stream like in the evening on the East Coast, or how does it work?
Yes. So actually, we've been ironing out the schedule for now, but it's actually great you asked me this now because I feel like we've gotten a really good rhythm right now. So my stream schedule right now is Thursdays to Sundays, and I'll usually start streaming at 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, which I know you guys are all in different time zones, so I know I don't know how useful that is for you, but I will usually what I'll do is on Thursdays I'll just we'll try doing we'll start at 8 o'clock for me, 8 o'clock on the US East Coast, and we'll play a fun Dragon build, like not the stock, like something usually kind of spicy. Either it could be like user submitted or it could just be really cool, and that's actually how we figured out about Teferi Master time, because last Thursday was when M21 came out, and I'm like, hey, look, we could play the new World Gorger enabler from M21. Nice meme. And then it turned out it was actually just really good. So we usually do that. We do that Thursdays, Fridays, and Saturdays. We play still 8 o'clock for those days. I'll play at the stock list, kind of just play it a little bit, nothing too spicy. And then Sunday, if I'm really feeling up to it, I will, which I usually am. So I'll do a longer stream, which will be a challenge most likely, because the Sunday at 11 Legacy challenge is fires like clockwork. So usually I'll just hop in that and see how it goes. And 2 out of 3 of them have gone very well. So.
Oh, it's only 2 out of 3 as well. Wow.
We have done 3. The third one did not go so well. We went 2 and 5. Made some pretty poor sideboarding. Well. Yeah, but the deck is fallible. It's not unbeatable. It's definitely not unbeatable.
Oh, okay, that's good to hear. What is the mirror like? Have you ever encountered the mirror?
Yeah, actually, the first time I played against the mirror was in the challenge in round 2, and it involved of course, yeah, and it involved me phasing out an opposing World Gorger Dragon with Teferi Master of Time. So I'd say it was pretty good.
That is not something I expected to hear about Legacy in quite a long time. Yeah.
Yeah, no, World Gorger is an animal to play. It's actually just the stupid stuff happens on such a regular basis. I have many stories. I have many stories of stupid games that my brain is just leaking out of my ear.
Give us your best story.
Yeah, okay. I got my best one right here. So this was in the last challenge, and it was against Mono White Bomberman, and in all metrics, I am dead. This game in paper should be over. But the scenario was my opponent had an Auriok Salvagers in play. They had a Lion's Eye Diamond, so they had all the mana they could ever want. And they also had this weird old ghetto. What was it? It was not Mishra's Bauble. It was a 1 mana Mishra's Bauble that did something very similar to Mishra's Bauble, where drew a card.
It makes someone search for basic lands or puts lands somewhere.
Yes.
Oh, I know which one you meant. Yeah, it has a guy and then a flying arrow on it.
Yes.
Yeah. No, that's absolutely the one. I could not tell you the name for the life of me, but I know it drew a card as next upkeep.
Lodestone Bauble is the card.
Yep. Yep. Perfect. So my opponent had that. So essentially they were able to draw their deck, but they didn't have enough time on Moto. And I was on stream, I'm like, you know what, guys? This is game 1. You know what? everyone always times me out on Moto. Like if one's gonna go our way, it's okay. It's okay. So he does a bunch. He draws like let's say like I think it was like 8 cards or something, and like sets. And he has a card, and he also has chalices. He has Chalices of the Void on 1, 2 on 1, and then 1 on 3. So I'm like, okay, this game's essentially over, but whatever. And he's all just for the record, he's also on Garuda back when Garuda was like, this is before Garuda was or the companions were nerfed, so he's also on Garuda. So I'm like, okay, maybe our out here guys is if he gets bored and he like casts Garuda and he like flips over my dragon and I can animate dead it and I draw animate dead because I also didn't have animate dead in my hand and no way to get it because all my cantrips were locked out. But so my opponent, in fact, decides to get bored. He casts Garuda, and the only legal target he hits is my one-of World Gorger Dragon. It puts the World Gorger Dragon into play. His whole board goes under it, and I'm just looking over here. I'm like, look at he has 6 cards in his graveyard, and I have this Drown the Lock in my hand, and then I untap, draw, animate dead. I'm like, we just won. We just won. And I'm just like... this. It was so good. And then he tilted off, and it was great. And I was like, oh, God. Man. It was beautiful. Every stage you described that story, I was like, okay, so yeah, you're gonna top deck the animate dead. Wait, no, he has to cast the Garuda. Wait, no, this, that. But then the only target as well, that's insane. Because, like, it was just like, because it just took all the chalices with it. So even after I killed the dragon, the chalices all came back on 0, so they didn't do anything. That's actually really good against the Bomberman deck. Yeah, if he literally hit anything else, like, I had 4 Ice Fang Coils in my graveyard, and I'm sure he had plenty of even cost creatures in his deck. Wow. Oh, that's amazing. No. I would love to see that in action. You mentioned people time you out a lot. So is the combo like very time intensive? So how many minutes usually does it take to combo off? Yeah, so on average, I'd say I've gotten pretty good at it at this point because I've been streaming this for months. But and we've also optimized it a lot. But I'd say it's like right now I could probably do it in like 3 minutes. Oh, that sounds good. That's not too bad. Yeah, but you can sometimes get into scenarios where it's like if you have too many Ice Fangs in play or too many Laves in play and you're stacking all the triggers and like, oh, you didn't draw Entomb and you're digging through your deck and oh my god, you need to like cast this back when we casted Fae of Wishes, you had to like get back Fae of Wishes, discard 2 cards of Fae of Wishes, cast Granted, cast Torment, click click. And it's just like, it could take, that 3 is like a loose 3, and that 3 took a lot to get to, so. And I guess it's quite slow and grindy, so you can get to like low on clock without getting to the combo as well. Yeah, I also am a deliberate and slow Magic player, so it does not play to my favor in that regard. Can I recommend something that I'm doing on my stream that people love? When you combo off, you put on some special dragon music. I do that for Glimpse Chains when I play Fs, and people love that shit. People sometimes play the Glimpse music on their phone when I combo off on paper, and I can suddenly hear like like what the fuck. Okay. Oh so if you have dedicated dragon music, that would be amazing. What's dragon music? Oh, that would be good. Just like, so I gotta figure out if it would be like high pressure music, or it's like go, 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 or if it's just like elevator music where it's like, okay, wait for it. I think some Holst the Planets could go well, like really intense dragon, or just elevator music. Elevator music would be actually insane. What are you associating with? I play elevator music on my stream. You want to avoid those copyright strikes, right? So elevator music, that's gotta be fair use. Oh, you have no idea. I play some like classical music from I think the 17th century or something, and I still get copyright strikes for that. I recently played the Russian national anthem, and I got a copyright strike for that. Dude, it's not even funny. Yeah, no, it's a kill or be killed world out there. Maybe you should just sing or something. Awesome. Oh, man. But moving on from one meme that turned into a real deck to another meme that turned into a real deck, Shark Still has actually been all the rage, and that's something, Callum, that you've been coming up with, right? So tell us about that. I did not expect it to. Well, I mean, cards are good, right? So the thing behind this was other people were playing the cards before, and they were messing around with Shark Typhoon as the card. So if anyone that doesn't know Shark Typhoon, it's a 6-mana enchantment. It costs 5 and a blue, so it's a blue card for Force of Will. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, you create an XX Shark creature token with flying, where X is the mana cost.
But the important thing is it has cycling as well. It has cycling for 1 blue and X. And when you cycle it, you create a shark flying token as well, where X is the amount of money you spent. So this works really nicely with Standstill because you can cast Standstill and then you can cycle through it. It's like a new age Decree of Justice for the decks. But this pitches to Force. It's slightly more powerful and less mana intensive and stuff. So the reason I built this was because a friend of mine, Nicholas Holtman from Germany, he was shouting at me to make he just loves the card. He likes sharks, I guess. And he was saying, Callum, build me a deck for this. I said, okay, sure. And I forgot to do it for about 2 weeks and he kept shouting at me. I said, okay. And then as I do at work, I build decks at work because I can't play at work. So I put it together. It's a pretty standard, like blue-white, good stuff shell. It had like some Teferis, Stamp Casters, then your usual things to complement Standstill, like Spell Pierce and Spell Snare. And then 3 Shark Typhoons. The other interesting card in the deck is Myth Realize, which the jury's still out on. It's a really powerful curve to go like turn 1 Myth Realize, turns 2 Standstill because you have your clock down. It does hit pretty hard, and it's also not super embarrassing when the games go very late. Like, it's not unusual for the deck to cast a lot of spells. So I've had it be like a 15-15 a couple of times, and you just kill someone in a couple of hits. So yeah, I honestly thought the deck looks solid, but it's just going to be like a cool looking deck that plays Sharks and Standstill. And then a friend of ours, Thomas Mekian, he like, played a league with it and 5-0'd the first time.
Killing me on the way.
Oh, killing you on the way. Even better.
Yeah,
I lost. That's basically a 6-0 then. And then I've been doing, we mentioned last podcast, I've been doing some charity streams with donation deck lists. Someone donated for me to play it. And it only took 3.5 hours to grind through like 2 snow decks on the way. But I 5-0'd with it too. It was pretty impressive. And then where it picked up is I'd posted on my Twitter and stuff. And then Noah Walker, Delver and Legacy Extraordinaire, just one of the best players I know of, basically. He saw like potential in it, so he picked it up, made some changes for the better, and then he wrote a article on Channel Fireball Pro about the deck. So I read that, and I really recommend anyone that wants to go and check out the deck to read that if they can. His changes are very good. Anurag Das, then, he took the deck thinking, I was watching a stream, and he was bad-mouthing it a little bit, but then he 5-0'd as well, actually beating a mirror on the way as well. And it topped two copies, top 16 the last challenge, I believe.
Yeah, exactly. It was Anorak and somebody, I guess I just searched for Shark. There shouldn't be too many Shark people.
Not too many Shark.
Shark Typhoon, sort about Legacy.
Sharnardi got 20th place, yeah.
Cool. So it's hard to describe the deck because honestly it does look pretty bad and underpowered on paper. Like, Standstill hasn't been a good card, I think, for a very long time, because this is actually going to be like a really perfect segue into another topic we're going to get to soon. But my reasoning for Standstill being bad is not because people play 1-drops like Delver of Secrets. It's because raw cards are just not worth what they used to be. So like, yeah, you play Standstill turn 2, and like someone plays an Oko into it, and then you just don't have the Force of Will, or they have the Force of Will back. Your then like straight blue-white deck is going to struggle beating that Oko. And so it's really about how threats line up and like whether your cards do something. And I also, with the printing of Veil of Summer, I just was so low on like strictly draw go kind of decks like Standstill can be. I was very, very questioning of this. So that's why the deck just looks pretty bad, honestly, on paper. But it's been punching above its weight. So yeah, I'm not sure where it goes from here. Like, it is very classic blue-white stuff. It plays your Source of Plowshares, Snapcasters. But
yeah, I remember like watching this kind of gameplay, the blue-white X Lancer kind of deck. That's what I first saw when I looked into Legacy in like 2005-06.
Yeah.
That was like one of the most popular decks in Munich that I think half the metagame even played. And it made for hilarious situations. Like in the mirror match, it's not rare for one person to have Standstill and then the Mishra's Factories on both sides cancel each other out. I guess in this build you don't even have manlands to begin with, so the scenario might even come up more often. And then eventually like both players get down to like 2 cards in a library, and then they fight over decking the other player with Standstill. So they go like brainstorm, response, because the trigger always goes on top, right? So you try to be the last one playing an instant, and that would lead to the craziest scenarios.
See, this for me is just beautiful Magic, where you have these in-game kind of things, and both players need to be setting up for that, and they need to be like assessing, do they have enough instants to be able to like make sure it cracks and the other person draws the cards, or like they need to be like setting up for that 10 turns in advance. That's great.
Yeah, at least, right? And if you don't know, like if you think that you are actually strategically disadvantaged, then you will probably break it much earlier, or maybe at least see whether your opponent has to start discarding because they can't make land drops. Because that's another thing about Stencil, right? The biggest thing is that you get to make your land drops, hopefully. And that's maybe your opponent who's playing a deck that doesn't have as many lands will start to discard. So not only will you get like +2 card advantage out of it, but potentially even more if they have to discard, which they usually would avoid then by playing right into it, but not everybody does that. And if they do it, you're still up.
I think people, from my experience playing it so far in just that one league, people were breaking it pretty early, which I think was generally the right play. Like, again, the threats are good enough that you can just jam into it and make the blue-white player like have their answers line up. But I think the printing of Force of Negation is a huge thing for this deck as well, because it's just another way to have free interaction on the stack, and you have another way to answer Oko, which is very, very good against the deck. But it's also just another way to use these these extra raw cards, even if the matchup, like, it helps that your answers do or don't line up right against the threats that they're presenting. So Force of Negation is just very flexible. It counters any non-creature spell, obviously. So yeah, this is another big reason why I think Standstill, I might have been wrong about it previously, that the raw cards don't matter, because they do. Like, raw cards are still very good. So
yeah, I actually played against this deck once when I was like playing with Dragon, and when they just go like turn 2 Standstill, you're just like, what do I do here? Like, it's like really bad. Because if you just let them draw their 3 cards, it's really hard to, like, yes, like, of course they could have, like, they might not have it, but when you're giving them 3 cards, they are much more likely to have it than when they don't.
Totally.
And also, to your point with Oko, I think the 3 Pyroblasts, I feel like would go a really long way against stopping mid-range threats like that, because you could just, like, clean up an Oko for 1 mana post-pour. It's just like, what do they do?
Yeah, that's the whole reason. That's the whole reason I added red, like, just purely for Oko, I think, because you can't play a Standstill into an Oko, because you will, like, 99% of the time lose that. Yeah.
Oh, does From the Ashes get an honorable mention? That's pretty sweet too.
Oh, that's one of the cards that Noah added, which I think is great. Like, there's a lot of land-based decks. So there's the Titan Stompy deck, which is very good against snow decks. So it's a nod to that, I think, as well.
No, like we play Assassin's Trophy, and it's like the same thing. You just Assassin's Trophy Delver, and they never have a basic. So I imagine you just cast this against Delver, and they're just like, oh no.
Yeah, this deck very much emulates the kind of play style and thinking that you already touched on, right? People have to plan very far ahead, understand their role in the matchup, and plan accordingly. That's something, to me, that's always super evident when I play Elves against it. And I've played Elves against it quite a lot lately. And I've noticed that for Elves, at least, it's surprisingly okay to not crack the Standstill for a long time, post-board especially. Like pre-board, but especially post-board. And for me, the game plan has been, and you can actually see that really well in my Legacy Premier League match season. I want to say 2 or 3. I think it's 3 against...
Oh, Jody Keith.
Jody Keith, that's the one. And we played, and I really knew the matchup back then, and I guess I still do, even though it's actually somewhat different because of Shark Typhoon now, because Shark Typhoon is much more scary than Mission's Factory.
That beats your stupid Dryad Arbors, yes.
Yeah. but not only that, like, the thing is, post-board, you actually get to go into a game state where they have 7 cards in hand, and you have 8 cards in hand, and then you crack the Standstill with, say, a Thoughtseize, and then they have 10 cards in hand, but you have so many 1 mana must counters. You're basically trying to amass a game where you have a bunch of lands in play, and then you fire off all your discard spells, and they either answer all your discard spells, or even better, if they resolve, then you know exactly what you're up against. So you're playing a really, really good game on the mana side, because if they want to answer everything, they usually don't have enough mana, and if they want to use their free counter spells, that's a 2-for-1 for you. So eventually, very often the way it plays out, unless you get killed by a Shark Typhoon earlier on, which is a very rare thing in the matchup right now, you just run out of a bunch of 1 mana spells. Eventually, 1 or 2 glimpses resolve, and then you just get to go off. And that's just like the greatest feeling in the world whenever that happens, because I've played that line a lot lately, because the deck shows up on Magic Online quite a bit now.
I think Elves looks like a pretty bad matchup for exactly how you describe. Like, Glimpse is just, it can't resolve, and then you just have, it's so cheap, you can just fire it off. Yeah.
Yeah, but even like if you know that from your side, right, that's also like a big advantage. So you will probably try to avoid that scenario in some kind of way, because when I play against experienced, well, I want to say landstill general pilots, they actually often crack their own standstill eventually at the end of my turn. So I go to like 11 cards, like I have 8 cards, they crack it, I go to 11, I have to discard 4 cards. And that's how it actually surprisingly often plays out, unless they can, of course, find like early Shark Typhoon. Sometimes
I think I did this in the league that I played on stream as well, where like I played a standstill and then I cracked it myself with a Teferi. And so they drew their cards like main phase. But what I'd gotten out of it was I lose 3 cards and the standstill, but I'd gained time, I'd made land drops, then I got to play a Teferi, resolve it, then play a second standstill. And the turn after that, I then use the Teferi to bounce the standstill. They can't cast cards because I have a Teferi in play a Myth Realized, and then play standstill again. So I'd engineered a state where even though I lost 4 cards, it didn't matter because I'd got the game to a state I wanted to.
Awesome. So, something we should mention, if we have people tuning in who've never played against standstill, a very common play pattern that you can also do when you're in one of these standstill games is to play an instant on your opponent's end of turn. So they get to draw the cards, but unless they counter whatever you're doing, preferably with like pitch counter or something, then they also need to discard a ton of cards. So that's something you can't really do with elves unless you have, I guess, crop rotation or maybe abrupt decay on something, but you usually can't abrupt decay anything there.
You can abrupt decay the standstill.
Yes.
Oh yeah, true.
There you go.
Yeah,
there's something. Yeah, even though I guess you wouldn't bring it in the first place, but you're definitely right.
So this is a pretty good tip. Like I guess I don't see it that much, but I think it's a pretty common play pattern for like the standstill player to put a standstill on the stack against Delver, for example, and then the Delver person will bolt them in response because like, okay, I need to get some damage in. But actually, you should save that bolt for when they have a full hand and they're ending the turn at 8 cards, and then you bolt them and they draw more and they go to discard.
In a certain way, that's actually almost card disadvantage for the other player, right? Because they have to discard, like they draw 3, but they also usually end up discarding 3 and they lose the standstill in the process.
Yeah, that tempo.
It's just important that you don't get into this game state that I was talking about. It's a very delicate balance because you want to not give them the card advantage, but at the same time, if you play draw go and they just make land drops, and then later in the game they have just like a full grip counterspell, Snapcaster Mages, Swords to Plowshares, you're going to be drawing Dazes and Wastelands and Lightning Bolts, which just line up very poorly. So you need to assess the state of the game every turn, really. It's so interesting to play against this card as well. So that makes me happy that it's kind of making a bit of a comeback.
Yeah, it's an awesomely designed card. I love it. I feel like modern cards aren't really designed this way anymore, where they're just like really good always. But these kinds of cards are like, you have to play very interesting games to kind of make them good, and very unintuitive lines. Like, this stuff's the best.
Totally. Modern standstill would be whenever an opponent casts a spell, you crack it.
Oh, absolutely. And they say the downside, you don't get the cards till your opponent casts a spell.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, that would actually be really broken, because then you could like put 2 or 3 of those on the board at the same time.
Yes, it would.
Yeah, hold on, guys, I'm gonna go puke up. Yeah. but jokes aside, I do agree. It's very cool to see it kind of back in a way. There's nothing like it. It's just a completely unique card, and we get to play with sharks, which is pretty sweet.
You know what the card is called in German? Shark Typhoon?
Go for it.
Well, it's called Haifun.
Haifun.
And it's pronounced it's spelled Haifun. So it's to an English speaker, it sounds more like Haifun.
Haifun. It is fun.
It's basically the same thing it's called in English. I just find the name so hilarious. But German, I guess Shark Typhoon is already hilarious.
Yeah, we don't need more. It's cool.
So you were touched. Actually, before we go into that, let's also give a shout out. I guess we can talk about that in the future as well if it keeps doing well. But holy shit, Paradigm Shift Merfolk has been doing really well. Like in the last challenge, I think it put something like 3.
Yeah.
I think it had.
Yeah,
I don't know if it top 8'd, but I saw like 3 or 4 copies in the top 32.
This episode is all about memes that are actually way better than than we think they are.
Okay. Let's go back. Like Merfolk was like super tier 1, well established. Like I have so much respect for the deck. I played it myself.
But how long ago was this? 10 plus years ago?
Come on, I'm not.
I'm just keeping us real over here.
It was more like 9 years ago. Yeah, you're right.
Fine, only 9 years ago. Okay.
But yeah, that I always had a soft spot for Merfolk, and I think it's not getting the credit it deserves because it's like a really cool deck. Even though people say it's more like the creature version of a burn deck, and to a certain degree, I agree. I just like it so much. It has.
Yeah. No, I am 0-2 against Merfolk right now. I have not beat Merfolk yet with World Gorger Dragon. So if this deck starts ticking up, this is another one of those weird bad matchups I was talking about. So
I think I'm like 1-8 or 9 against it lifetime with a host of different decks. Like name it.
Oh yeah.
I just always.
No, I love playing blue-white control. I would always lose to Merfolk if we go back further. I think I'm around there too.
We had
and now there's Paradigm Shift.
Yeah. So Thassa's Oracle Paradigm Shift. For anyone unaware, Paradigm Shift is a rare from Weatherlight, and it's 1 and a blue, and it's remove your library from the game and then shuffle your graveyard into your library. So it's essentially you remove your library from the game, but Merfolk has very few cards that go to the graveyard unless they're like discarded, killed, or counters, or they have Force at Will. So it's very easy to have just like 1, 2, or 3 cards in your graveyard. So it's essentially just removing your whole library from the game. And Thassa's Oracle, as people probably know from like multiple other formats, is 2 blue for a 1/3 Merfolk. So you can cavern it gets pumped as well. When ETBs, you look at the top X cards of your library, where X is your devotion to blue. And so you're going to have a high devotion count as well. So even if you have multiple cards in your graveyard, like 3, 4, or 5, you're probably going to be able to hit this fine with your Lords. You choose a card from that pile, and then you put that on top and the rest on the bottom of your library. But if X is equal to or higher than the cards in your library, you win the game. So it's essentially like a 2-card combo, especially in a deck that doesn't fill the graveyard, like I said. So to me, with no real filter in the deck, it on the surface it looks kind of out of place and it's hard to put together. But when you factor in that this is a deck playing a lot of Force of Wills, it has a very fast clock with the Lords. Yeah, I mean, this is similar to World Gorger Dragon. Like, you're going to catch people off guard. You're going to have this combo. You can Vial or Cavern in the Thassa's Oracle, and yeah, I can see it pretty good.
One other thing I wanted to touch on there is when I was the one game I was actually about to beat Merfolk. Another one of those stories I had where I'm like, okay, I guess we got this locked up. He only has 1 card in hand, and then I cast Dragon, and he casts Merfolk Trickster. And apparently, if you remove all the abilities from Dragon, you don't get any permanents back.
Oh my god!
Learn that.
Oh my
so watch out for that if Merfolk becomes a thing, because I didn't know that.
That's not even on my radar when you said the name.
Merfolk Trickster is the one that basically creates a containment priest effect for a turn, right?
No, it's 2 blue.
It takes the abilities off
the tap one. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, you're right. It taps down and removes all the abilities from the World Gorger or any creature it targets, right?
Yeah.
Yep, so you lose the leave battlefield ability, and then it does not end well for you. So, yeah, no, this deck's very similar. It feels like the powered up version of, if you guys play Pioneer, Devere Inverter, where that deck this like Paradigm Shift essentially is the ETB ability of Inverter of Truth, but you just have this really awesome aggressive beatdown plan on top of that. So, yeah, I think this deck's gonna be very good.
And this deck can I don't know if the most recent lists do, but it can play Chalice as well. It can have loads of counter magic, of course. It's a pretty potent mix.
Yeah. The thing, like, the evolution of Merfolk has been that the deck always struggled against combo because it really only had like 4 Forces, 4 Dazes, and then 4 Curse Catchers, and that sounds okay, but it's actually not. So eventually the deck adopted Chalice of the Void and started playing Chalice of the Void and no Wastelands anymore because the mana base is actually horrible. It's just like it needs to blue so many times, and every time you drop Meteor Void or Wasteland, you felt like, oh, I'm delaying my Lord by a turn. That was like a big deal. So the Chalice made it actually viable, and I think Cyrus Cormagill actually went on record saying it's one of the worst matchups he could face with Storm. So there's something. And now having access to the combo that actually kills your opponent instantly. We talked about this earlier, right? With Dragon or with other decks that have like a decent grind, or in from Merfolk's deck, aggro plan, but then also add that other strategic element, in this case like the quick combo kill. How that is always a really, really good spot to be, because it makes it so hard for your opponent to actually evaluate where they are in the matchup. And I really, really like that the deck is doing that. I gotta say, initially, I didn't like it that much. I have very fond memories of the old school Merfolk deck that really just would beat you down and just counter 1 or 2 spells on the way and then get you that way. But now having that line available, and I mean, you gotta say, Thassa's Oracle, even outside of the combo in this deck, it's not that bad, right?
No, you get this.
No, they have a lot of blue pips. That's a big scry.
Yeah, you're just grabbing a Lord or a Force to the top of the library, or like maybe the chalice or whatever you need. Yeah.
Yeah, it's basically the discussion we sometimes have in Legacy, how many scry equals one card draw. And even if it doesn't fully amount to a full card draw, I guess usually people say like scry 4 is like a card draw or something. But even if it doesn't get to that, it's still almost there. And then having that extra upside of getting the combo, that's just like really, really cool. I like that.
Yeah, it's not a bad card when you're scrying.
I'm a huge fan of this. I love creative decks like this. So yeah.
And we haven't even mentioned like that there's still a True Name Nemesis in the deck, which is one of the
most obnoxious 4 True Name.
And what's
came back from the dead, Luris killed him.
Their True Names are getting through Plague Engineers because you have the Lords and stuff. So it's tricky to balance everything. Yeah.
Yeah, the list I'm looking at right now also runs 3 Baron Talarian Archmage, which seems super spicy.
Yeah, this is one of the new cards. So Baron is 3 mana, so I think 1 and double blue, so double pips. It's a 2/2. When it ETBs, you can bounce a creature or planeswalker to its owner's hand. And you can do this to your own as well. So you could I could see them really playing out Thassa's Oracle, finding the paradigm shift with the ETB, and then Baron it back to your hand. And yeah.
Yeah, also it draws a card if you bounced your own thing. So it wants you to bounce your own stuff.
Yeah, and if you bounce, let's get cute here. If you bounce your own Silvergill Adept, you basically draw 2 cards once you get the Silvergill Adept down, but while maybe on the second turn, on the same turn. Or I guess you get to reuse your Cozy's Tricksters, like all tiny, small incremental value. I also noticed the Baron, and I think it's amazing. I don't know if it's going to be a mainstay, especially as a 3-off, but maybe it's good enough. But it excites me as well.
For sure.
Also note, I think Baron triggers on any, it doesn't have to be the permanent that you returned, right?
No.
So, for example, if you were to go to play a more old school Murfolk list with dazes again, then if you daze, I think that would also trigger Baron.
It's a permanent. Yeah, that would work. But it's your end step, so you'd have to daze on your turn for it to work. But if you did that, then that would work.
That's just tiny, small things. So yeah, Murfolk. Watch out for Murfolk. Really cool deck.
They're coming.
It's coming.
For our last segment here, I want to discuss an article I actually only stumbled upon today, even though it was released a couple of days ago. It's by one of the best, I want to say, players in the history of Magic. I really think very highly of him.
He totally is. He's one of the best ever.
Yeah, Javier Dominguez from Spain. And he wrote a really great article about, on Hararuria, I can't pronounce it. I can't roll my R's. Thank you very much.
Hararuria, yeah.
Okay, awesome. And he wrote an article. He says it's about the state of the cantrips and how to properly play cantrips in Legacy. And that's basically the core thing he talks about. But I think it actually gets the context of Legacy and what's going on in Legacy really, really right. He speaks about how Legacy has changed lately and how that affects the way he plays cantrips and also the overall strategic approach towards certain matchups. And we're going to link it in the show notes. You can probably read it for yourself and get a better overview of that. At least for me, I want to say, Xavi really, really puts into words what I've been thinking about Legacy for at least half a year, maybe a year. Ever since we got a lot of changes that probably most people listening to would be aware there's
Yeah, I think the beginning of this real power creepers, War of the Spark, which had Dreadhorde Arcanist very key. This for me is the beginning of this extra step where what Javier describes in the article is cantrips used to be whoever could balance their game plan well enough to hold cantrips for as long as possible and play them at the last minute to find what you need to maximize all your cards' values. This is how you would play old Miracles Mirrors very often, where you would hold on to Ponders until later because you need to leave up the mana sometimes as well, but you also you just don't know how the game
what the bottleneck is going to be, right?
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So you don't know if you need land drops, you don't know if you need another Pyroblast or Force of Will or whatever. So games, a lot of Blue Mirrors especially, were like this, and they rewarded playing slowly and being patient. But now the power level of cards, and especially their snowball or ability to snowball, has been pushed so much in the last few sets that the format is about tempo, but not in the old way that we think of tempo, Nimble Mongoose and Stifle and stuff. Tempo, when it's tied to this snowballing effects, like Dreadhorde Arcanist, if you leave it alive for 1 or 2 turns, every single turn it's generating this card advantage, where it's going to draw them into more threats or free counter magic or more disruption. Every turn you leave Oko, it's generating more either disruption for your creatures, or it's like, getting out of range where you can reasonably kill it in combat. Uro is gaining life, drawing cards, putting lands into play. So these threats just like, they don't actually finish the game fast, but they put it away much faster. Like, just leave them for a few turns. So his argument is you want to be pondering turn 1 or turn 2 to find a force of will for that Oko if your opponent's going to be going into their turn 3 and you don't have a force of will yet. You want to be actively looking for land drops to play your threats onto curve. Uro is even like a stronger example of this, where like it's probably quite common to brainstorm turn 1 more than you think to hit your second land drop in the right sequence for the fetch lands you want. It's probably very common to brainstorm turn 2, even if you like think, okay, I have 2 lands in play, one of which is a fetch land. I could then, and I want a third land drop. You don't want to have one in the hand. It would be very common to think, okay, I can go to my third turn, I can brainstorm main phase, you see 1 card deeper. But when your deck is full of Okos and Uros, I think brainstorming at the end of your opponent's turn, you're losing 1 card deeper, but you're gaining potentially 3 mana by playing a threat turn 3. And this is what like the format is hinging around a lot, where you are playing to the board, you are trying to snowball, or you are trying to stop your opponent snowballing in these kind of situations. So as an additional note to this, he says Force of Will was historically very bad in fair mirrors because you just don't want to be down on card advantages. But because all these threats get your card advantage back, it's so important to have this tempo, this interaction at any point in the game. So that's roughly summing up what he said, probably better than what I'm trying to explain now. But actually, even to further point out how Uro really rewards playing cantrips early. Like, it lets you escape it earlier as you fill your graveyard with ponders and brainstorms and stuff and fetch lands. It's also really important to find either the fetch lands that aren't the dual lands or whatever, so you can escape it on turn 4 or something. It really reminds me of the old Treasure Cruise days, where people complained that Treasure Cruise took away the nuance of playing cantrips because you would get rewarded for playing them faster because you have a payoff. And Uro's escape is basically like Delve, so it's very similar things.
Yeah. I think you really summed it up very well with regards to what the core gist of the article. I think that the one quote that stuck out to me the most, that's why I made it red in our show notes, is Javier mentions the fact that the threats are so powerful means they are often more relevant than card advantage itself. And that goes back to what you said about especially Dreadhorde Arcanist, right? If you can force your Dreadhorde Arcanist through, you're down a card, but you immediately start making up the card disadvantage. And not only that, you also make up tempo, right? Because it casts the cards for free. And in a way, it's the same for Euro. Euro also gets you your even more tempo by giving you those additional land drops. So we are really right now caught in a spot where the threats have become so powerful that, like you mentioned, the nuance is kind of gone. I think Anorak recently called it like the elegance is gone. I can totally see that. So it feels more like we're battling each other with very powerful mega super robots or whatever. That's probably like a bad comparison.
Yeah, Battlecruiser Magic is what they call it.
That's
Battlecruiser Magic, but at like 2 and 3 mana, right? That used to be a thing for 5 mana. Like people talked about Baneslayer as the epitome of that kind of playstyle. And now we're down to a 2-drop being almost game deciding. I mentioned it in one of our legacy chats that to me, when I'm playing Elves, for example, I'm always playing it for Abrupt Decay if I can somehow find the way, because Dreadhorde Arcanist to me is maybe the most defining card of the format right now because it's so incredibly scary to anything that's not a combo deck. And even combo decks like can struggle against that quite a bit if it's active for too long.
Oh, yeah.
I think one important takeaway from Javier's article, though, is he doesn't say this is necessarily a bad thing. I think a lot of players yearn for that nuance thing. And for me personally, I do prefer the quote-unquote old way of doing it. But it's just a different way of thinking about things. I don't think, even before Dreadhorde Arcanist came along, I think people were siding out Force of Will and Fair matchups a bit too much and being a bit too playful with their cantrips and being a bit too slow sometimes. So he just explains how things are rather than saying, like, decrying the state of it. It's we need to just reevaluate things all the time. That's the main thing.
I really noticed that, and that's also why I think the article is so good. I'm very much on your side of that thing as well, right? I also think like I like the old way of doing that much better with regards to gameplay and strategy. But you can really see that this article was written by a pro who's in there to win, and not who's in there to create the perfect metagame or format that they enjoy. I mean, that's probably also something he would like to do. But this is really through the eyes of a killer. Like Javier sees what's going on. Which adaptations do we need to make? And this is the world we live in. And now we do what's required. I mean, that sounds pretty dramatic.
This is also still a guy who has won a Legacy GP as well. He's super entrenched in the format in the past, and he made Cephalid Breakfast as well. Like, he knows this format inside and out for years and years. So he's coming at it he knows all these old heuristics. And as you said, now he's the world champion. He's just one of the best ever. So he's coming at it from, as you say, a killer's eyes who just does know all the old stuff as well. So it's a great way to put it.
Yeah, you guys are really right. I think you hit a lot of the great points, but it's interesting to see how the paradigm is kind of shifting from cards to mana, and there's just like a lot of people just aren't really all about that. Like I hear it I feel like the best example that I come into contact where this kind of applies is I have so many people who tell me about how they think Astrolabe should be banned from the Legacy format because what it does too much for too little of a mana, and it like puts you too far ahead, so you can just do whatever you want with your mana, and like mana should be more nuanced and all that. But then I'm like, well, guys, come on, you gotta look at this. Like the decks that are winning if you look at the metagame share of Arkham's Astrolabe decks, they're not that big. Like, they're very small, in fact. Like, in the top 60, or I think it was in the top 32 of this challenge, there were more World Gorger Dragon combo decks than there were Snowco decks. So, just putting that out there.
Facts don't lie.
But, yeah.
If you told me, like, half a year ago that right now in Legacy, phasing and World Gorger Dragon combo would be, like, tier 1 thing, or, like things that just won a big Legacy tournament, I would have been like, whoa, is this, like, Legacy from 15 years ago or something? This is crazy.
Yeah, no, it's so different because it's like people just, and then when I talk more people about it, I'm like, this is what I think. What it usually boils down to their opinions is they just don't like this for War Magic. They're just not a fan of it. And I'm like, you know what? Like, I can't, if that's how you feel, that's how you feel. Fair enough. But, it's very interesting to kind of see all the facts put out in paper like this. So, yeah, no, I don't know what else. I kind of just wanted to add that point there.
Yeah, totally. It's hard for people to, like, it is quite a dramatic shift, but it's been happening slowly, and people are, myself included, like kind of starting to really wake up to this shift because, as we said, like playing Cantrips and Force of Will being good or bad and fair matchups or not, these were slow adoptions here and there, and it's right now we're being like kind of thrust into it. There's been so many good threats, so it's a lot of people don't play Magic Online as well, and they are really missing getting to play in paper, and paper was never really like. You didn't have the opportunity to play that much anyway. So the people on Magic Online, we are getting to play all the time, and we're getting like first-hand experiences of this and playing so much. And so I do really, really feel like the people that are waiting for paper to come back, I feel for them because they're being told that things are fine. But what they're seeing is such a shift in they're seeing these lists with 5 colors and playing Blood Moon and Back to Basics. And without playing actually with it or against it, I'll be like, what is this? You shouldn't be able to do this. But it's when you play against it, I don't think Snow is particularly good, honestly. I think it's a tier 2 deck currently.
I agree. Yeah. I totally agree. It's also so interesting too when I'm playing against Delver, not even just with World Gorger Dragon, but just in generally, like the difference between when they go turn 1 blue source Delver Secrets versus when they go turn 1 blue source Ponder. It is. You can feel like the tension, like how much more, like when they ponder, I'm like, oh, they're basically taking their turn 1 off. This is great. I'm doing so well. But if they put the Delver, I'm like, oh my God, I'm already under pressure. I'm already like need to find answers to this or find a way to like win the game. Like it's like night and day. And I think that's like a perfect example of just what we're seeing here.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more.
So guys, let's wrap it up here. Where can people find you on social media? Callum, I'm sorry, I always mispronounce your name. It's almost going to become a meme at this point.
I'm just going to call myself Callum now, once you get it right.
Callum, okay, cool.
So yeah, best place, always find me on Twitter at WhiteFacesMTG, or Magic Online at Whitefaces as well. Yeah, shout at me.
Are you still doing streaming, or was that more like a one-time thing?
I've just been very busy with... work is picking up, and We've been having like lockdown starting to decrease, so I've gone out a couple of times and gone for beers in the park and barbecues and stuff. So, but I do have more donation deck lists from my charity stream to play still, and I've got a friend wanting me to play some black green pox as well soon. Kahira pox actually.
Kahira pox. Yeah. And they said cats were bad.
Yeah. Well, there's no dog pox, so yeah. I won't be streaming this weekend, but maybe next week.
Awesome. And Kyle, where can people find you and the whole Dragon crew?
Yeah. So as we kind of touched on a little bit earlier, maybe we'll have the Twitter put together on time. But the main place you can find me, if you want to see me streaming, I stream 3 to 4 days a week, Thursdays, Sundays. Twitch.tv/WorldGorger115. We also, I believe, if you guys, we should get a Discord invite link if you want to join that. We got plenty of World Gorger Dragon information there, and the write-up too, like that. I guess that's not really where you find me, but great World Gorger Dragon information there, so check it out.
Awesome. And if people want to find me, you can find me at itsjulian23 on Twitter, or twitch.tv/itsjulian. Yeah, that's... or on Twitch TV/itsjulian. And if you want to follow our podcast, you can go to twitter.com/EternalMTG. That's the dedicated Eternal MTG podcast Twitter, where you can actually see what everybody's drinking before each cast and play a little game where you try to guess what everybody's having and try to ignore the background, because eventually you can just tell. Unless we start moving around in our apartments and taking pictures everywhere.
This week I did move. A little spoiler. Well, it's gone out already now. But yeah, I moved it to a different place and yeah.
Awesome. So yeah, that's it for us. If you want to support what we're doing, you can support us on patreon.com/everydayeternal, where you can become a Patreon of the show, help us run the production of all of this. And just like, for example, this week, we got a new Patreon on the Grizzlebrand tier. That's our highest tier. And that's our good friend Dukes, I believe. I'm so bad with his name. I've asked him 20 times. I'm pretty sure it's Dukes.
Yeah.
And if you want to see him stream, he's the guy who runs greensunsunnit.com.
Yep.
Yeah. He's the guy who runs greensunsunnit.com. And you can also see him on Twitch TV/Dukes on Twitch. Dukes, that's DOUGES on Twitch, one word. And he joined us. He's gonna join our other Grizzlebrand tier supporters, which are Bachubat, Scott Monroe, Kurish Alistay, and Jeremy Gates, as well as our Eternal Witness tier supporters, Matt Nams, Valerio, James Slack, and Victor Benance. Of course, if you want to join the Discord if you join the Patreon on any level, you get access to our Everyday Eternal Discord. And there's also other ways, right? If you want to go to iTunes, if you want to leave a review on iTunes, I think we haven't had one in quite a while. I hope nobody's going to come in and give us a 1-star review now. It's okay, maybe I should rate you. No, seriously, if you want to do that helps us out quite a lot. So if people go for, they look for Legacy Podcast, they can find us there. But the most important thing, honestly, is really just spread the word of... You like the podcast, let your friends know, drop a word here and then. That really goes a long way to making this more popular. Other than maybe us trying to do good work. I guess if you do better work,
I feel like that can't hurt.
Yeah, we should actually try doing that. Maybe that's a better marketing concept. Put out a good product.
Really? Nah.
No, we keep talking about Dragon and Murfolk and stuff like that. No.
Wait, is that...
Hey, these decks are good.
Wait, that's the good work. I thought we said we were not going to do that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, anyway.
So thank you so much. Thanks, Kyle, for coming on. And everybody, have a great time. Have a great weekend. And we'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.
Goodbye, everyone. Ciao.